Okay, we have talked about ordering systems at the beginning of this semester related to axis, symmetry, rhythm. So today we're going to apply that knowledge to a more complicated building. And we're going to use the idea of trying to find guidelines or an inspiration of scale or site to develop a facade. And we're going to specifically use a project in New York City by a firm called WORKac and take a look at how they used what they call regulating lines to create an addition on the top of a building. So these are images out of a book by Le Corbusier. We've only looked at Le Corbusier's Modular Man, I think in D Fund 1 and D Fund 2. But you're going to hear about the architect Le Corbusier quite a few times in the next few years. And then when we can travel again, we might even go visit some of his work. We're going to take a look at what he thinks about regulating lines or ordering systems, because he feels that when we find the regulating lines within an existing context, if we apply that to our work, then it prevents us from being willful, right? Or making decisions just because we feel like it. If we can find something about our environment and apply an order to it and create architecture from there, you have a more rigid or agreeable to the space type of design. So I wanted to read just a little bit about what Le Corbusier says in Towards a New Architecture. Le Corbusier is simply drawing some existing buildings and then trying to find some sort of pattern within that building. And we're going to use this technique today to study WORKac's facade. A regulating line is an assurance against capriciousness. It is a means of verification, which can ratify all work created in a fever or be more similar to the work of a mathematician. The regulating line is the satisfaction of a spiritual order which leads to the pursuit of indigenous and harmonious relations. So a bit more kind of dense language that he's using to say the same thing that I'm trying to express. What he's trying to find is the work within a facade or existing condition that describes the quality of a rhythm. The regulating line brings in this tangible form of mathematics, which gives the reassuring perception of order. Meaning if we can find a rhythm within an existing structure that we're trying to design in or around or near, we can apply that order and maybe it agrees with the environment or the people using it a little more seamlessly. The choice of regulating line fixes the fundamental geometry of the work, and it fixes, therefore, one of the fundamental characters of the work. The choice of the regulating line is one of the decisive moments of inspiration, and it is one of the vital operations of architecture. All right, so let's apply this to a project and something that's been built within the last decade. So WORKac, again, a firm based in New York, is built from two principles. Or a little bit about her. She was also only not practicing, but it was also the dean of Columbia. It's called the Columbia Grad School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation. You're going to see Columbia GSAPP as an acronym, well-known school of architecture or school in general. All right. I'd like you all to open Google Earth, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the architecture firm WORKac. And in Google Earth, you're going to search for the stealth building. And we'll kind of flip back and forth to this because we're going to take a look at all of the things in an extremely dense urban environment that might be affecting the stealth building. All right, so Amale Andros and Dan Wood. So they formed a partnership, which they call WORKac. So many deans are also practicing in separate firms, maybe being led by a partner while you're busy running a graduate school. But WORKac is really well known for bringing together ecological and landscape with their architecture. So we're going to take a look at what that means in an urban environment. So we're going to focus on the stealth building. You can tell me after we take a look at this today, why you might call it stealth. Clearly from the elevation, you can see that it's a little different from the neighboring buildings because of its color. But a lot of the rhythm in the windows makes sense in context. So when you are hired to work on a building in an existing city environment, and I think this is relevant in Appalachia because we have so many old historic towns that have really great, well-built masonry architecture. So you're going to be hired, and if you are working on a project in a historic district, you're going to have specific guidelines. This is based on, what's it called? Historic Preservation of the U.S. Department of Interior. They have guidelines for how you can renovate these old structures. And many times you have to explain, am I recreating the entire building to do a new function? Like this used to be residential, now it's going to be a restaurant. Is the use changing? Or are you restoring it to its former glory? Okay, so WORKac was hired to restore the building and then add on a 2.5-story penthouse to the roof. But it is under guidelines of the Historic Commission. And where it is in New York says, you can't build anything on a roof that I might be able to see from the ground floor. So, okay, that's a constraint. So let's take a look at what WORKac did to create a new floor plan at the roof and then still respect New York and the Historic Landmark Commission's rules. So they went up to the roof and they said, if I'm standing on the roof, where might someone be able to see my architecture? So they looked at the shortest building on the nearby block. And feel free if you want to search, where am I looking at in Google Earth? We can take a look at that together while we're discussing this. I think that building, the low building, is here, kind of across the street. So WORKac said, all right, if I position myself on the street and I don't have any tall buildings affecting my view of this, where could I start building architecture so that no one can see it from the street level? So they established this kind of sight line. It looks like we have a vanishing point and then projected lines go over this roof. They also took a look. So that's one thing. That's a low point, and we're looking at the roof. Then they took a look at all of the other tall buildings surrounding it and said, all right, where is there shade and shadow? If I create this sawtooth roof, that's this ridge line, kind of going up and down that we see in the third image, I can grab certain light at specific times of the day, right? So we have this really interesting form that has to do with sight lines, shade shadow, time of day, and views from the street. We can see that form that we see in gray kind of goes from a very small height at the front and then grows to a larger volume in the back. So it seems like the architect could build within this resulting form, which is kind of compiled of many different ideas. Does that make sense? That the architect's trying to maximize the building space on the roof, but not have anyone see it from the street. Okay. So I like to say that as architects, we have like internal ideas, but external rules, right? So they had an idea. I want a 2.5-story penthouse on the roof, but the site and the Landmarks Commission says I needed this. So then we have to marry the idea of what's expected in code and what we want. So WORKac decided, okay, I can fit a 2.5-story volume kind of on the back side of my facade. And then I'll kind of focus on this image in the upper left, right? So what that created was a solid volume with sight lines of the roof that kind of pointed toward, actually it points toward one World Trade Center observatory. That's what we're kind of looking at in the distance there. If you want to look at any better pictures or additional photographs of the stealth building, I would send you to ArcDaily. Has anyone been on ArcDaily's site in the past? Yeah, okay. So ArcDaily has a lot of really great photographs of the project, and some of them, show what the interior space looks like as well. And what we're looking at here is the back side of that front facade. If they weren't allowed to build anything there, it created a nice opportunity for an outdoor living space. Okay, so what we're going to do today is that we are going to create this facade. And then near the end of class, we're going to study it for any patterning and proportion that you see on the facade alone. So let's go into Revit. And we're going to learn a few new tricks and tips and tools to create that facade. The thing I like about this facade is that it's pretty consistent. I'll have a photograph of the front of the building up on the side so we can reference it. But if we look from floor to floor, we can see that we have 5 columns kind of across the face at every level. And then we have a series of either doors like the first story, but mainly, windows that kind of fit between those columns floor to floor. So what we're going to focus on in Revit is drawing this efficiently. We're going to draw level 1 with columns, doors, and windows. And then we're going to use that and copy it on each level. We're really just going to build level 1, level 2, and then copy that 3 more times. And then we'll find windows in the end as well. We're going to just start out with a generic wall. And I'm going to tell you a few dimensions. We're not going to measure them in Google Earth. I'm going to make my first WA wall 18 feet long. And then I'm going to use those grid lines to break up this facade so that I know where to place columns and how to center doors and windows. So to find the grid, I'm just going to type GR. And beginning on the left side, I'm going to touch below the wall and drag up. And I'm going to do this until I have 5 grid lines. Number 1's on the left, and I want 5 to end up on the right. And don't worry about evenly spacing. We'll do that with dimensions after the fact. I'm just clicking below the line and making sure that these are straight. Not worrying about the dimensions and where they are in the wall. We are going to do a running dimension strand to connect all of these and then tell them we want it to be equally spaced. So let's hit escape, escape, and DI for dimension. And then I'm simply going to click grid line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then notice that when I place the last one so that my dimension line stays put, I have a little EQ notation above the dimension line. when I click EQ, it will make all of these grid lines equally spaced. So you don't need to dimension them again, but they're now 4'6". So as I look at the facade, I notice that on every level, we have a pilaster, right? A column that is sunk into that wall. So I don't find a Corinthian order when I search, but did any of you, sometimes it takes a few weeks to get a Revit City account. You can get a Corinthian column if you really want one in Revit City. It's just revitcity.com, but we're just going to work with a circular column today. So back in Revit, I am going to go into the Insert tab and find something in the Cloud Library. So this is new for Revit 2022, that the entire library of doors, windows, columns, they're all online. So that's why we had to sign into Revit. So in the Insert tab, in the middle of the ribbon, about 3/4 of the way over, there's Load Autodesk Family. Let's click on Load Autodesk Family. So I want to find a round column. I can, in the top search bar, just type in a round column. And you can select, I'm just going to select the concrete round column. And then load. So we're selecting the concrete round column because this is an interesting thing on the WORKac building. So the facade in the past was built out of cast iron. So you can imagine how expensive it might be 100 years ago to have created all of these forms, casting the cast iron. So when the building was renovated, the architects wanted to find kind of a more modern technology. So they decided that they were going to 3D print concrete columns instead of cast iron Corinthian columns. So the technology is called GFRE. It was new to me when I researched this. Glass fiber reinforced concrete is what they used. So we'll select a concrete column to respect that technology. Okay. So back in Revit, I'm going to go to the Architecture tab. And there's a column button with a drop-down menu. And I think it's under Structural. Yes. So find Structural and click on that. Then in the Properties bar, your 12-inch round concrete column should come up. And when you hover your cursor into level 1, do you see the column? Great. Okay. So as we place this at the intersection of the grid line and the front face of the wall, you're going to get an error message, but that's all right. Let's click on all of those intersections and then we'll fix the column. So I'm just hovering on the front of the wall, intersection of the grid line, 5 times. None of the created elements are visible. You may want to check an active view or its parameters, right? A lot of language that we are learning about. Let's go to an elevation to see if we can find what happened to our columns. So in the project browser, I want you to go to the south elevation. Again, you know, that's bringing us to this view plan south. All right, so I've double clicked in south and now I see all of my columns are below level 1. And here's why. When we look at structural drawings, let's imagine that we're looking at a structural drawing of engineering technology. And we're on the ground floor. So what's below us is probably just a concrete pad and dirt, right? And maybe probably hopefully. Foundations below our load-bearing walls. So when I look at a level 1 plan of structure, the cut plane, not like architecture, which is 3 feet off the ground, it's actually below my floor because it wants to understand what structure is holding up your floor. So when we drew columns on level 1, it thought, oh, you're drawing structure below us. But we're going to fix that. So in your elevation, grab each of the columns. I'm just clicking right, holding my left click and dragging across the columns. I'm going to change their heights in the properties menu. So for the top level, I'm going to hover my cursor on the right side of the row where you see level 1, and I'm going to change that to level 2. That updates the height of the columns. And then below where we see level 1 now, the base offset is 9. I want that -9 to be 0. And apply. All right. So now my columns are going from floor to floor. Let's do something else. You have to touch the edge of your wall. I also want to constrain it to level 2. So let's touch the wall and put the top constraint at level 2. So I'll hold my cursor here for a second. I'm also going to give you dimensions for the next few floors. I know that floor 1 looks taller and floor 2 look taller. And then floor 3, 4, and 5 look a little shorter, right? Let's create some levels and we'll adjust the heights. So the first level here, we're going to make 12 feet. Let me confirm. Yes. Okay. So we're going to zoom in to level 2, touch the 10 twice and change it to 12 feet. And then I'm going to copy the level marker so that I have levels for each floor of my stealth building. So let's see, we're going to do level 2, 3, 4, 5, and a roof. So we'll repeat the next step until we get up to our roof. Let's touch level 2 again, the whole level. Type in CO for copy. Touch the line, drag it up. We're going to make that next level 12 feet as well. So I just typed in 12. So level 3 should be at 24 feet. And then the next 3 levels, level 4, 5, and roof, are all going to be 10 feet. So why don't you copy the next few levels, 10 feet each. And then I'm going to change the name of level 6, or just add it, roof, to the name. You can change names just by double clicking the name like you did the dimension of the height. So let's experiment with these blue and black symbols. Like, why are the ones we just created black? What it means is that a lot of our symbols allow us to link to other drawings. So what happens, you guys can try this, double click on the blue symbol of level 1. Okay, and it brings you to level 1. Go back to the south elevation and double click on the black one. And it doesn't do anything. Okay, so Revit doesn't know yet that we don't want to use these just as guides, that we actually want them to be floor plans. So we need to tell Revit that they're floor plans. So we are going to do that. We're going to go to the View tab. I'll make this a little bigger since my icons look different when they're shrunk. So View tab in the ribbon. Directly below View tab, you're going to drop down the Plan View, and then you're going to click on the first option of Floor Plan. I want to select all of these levels to be planned, so I'll hold in Shift and touch level 6 to select them all and hit OK. All right, so probably what pops up then is your last plan, level 6. All right, we can exit out of that one for now, so we can just hit the X. Okay, let's put in doors and windows on level 1. So let's go back to level 1 plan. So what we see on level 1 are 2 doors and then 2 windows in between the columns. Does anybody remember the command for door? DR? Yeah, okay, DR. And do I have a door with a light? I don't think so. I touched the properties bar. All I have is a single flush door, no window light. That's okay. Let's put in a holder door. Let's put in a 36 by 84, and then we'll find the right door. Okay. If, I'll just draw this so that you can determine inside and outside. You don't need to draw the space. If this is a commercial property that is up to code, let's think of egressing out of this building in a safe way. What way do you think this door should swing? Out, yes. All right. So let's swing the door out. And then let's find a better door in the cloud library. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab in the ribbon again. And then click on the Load Autodesk family. And I'm going to search for a door with a light, and that is spelled L-I-T-E. And then I'm going to select the one that looks like it's most similar. We'll just pick the one with the full light and hit load. Did everyone find the door? Great. All right, let's load that in. And then we have to choose the door height. We have so many options. I'm going to choose a 7-foot height door, right, or the 84-inch, because most commercial doors are going to respect masonry wall construction. 3 by 7 by selecting that 36 by 84 row and hit OK. Now let's pick the door we've already put in the plan, or you can hit DR to put the door in, and that single light will come up. You could hit DR or select the door we've already put in there, touch the properties bar, and find our door with light. All right, and let's make sure our swings are outward. You can zoom in and kind of touch the door and use your arrow keys to center this door in the columns. And we're going to focus on these really large windows next. We have a couple options with windows. Do those look like they are operable? Do they move? Or do you think they're fixed? Fixed, yeah. All right, so when we type in WN for window, we're going to look in our properties bar. For the largest 36-inch door window we have, you have 36 by 72? Okay. So let's select that one, and we'll put 2 windows in between those last 2 columns. Then I want to take a look at this from the south elevation again. So it looks like I'm going to adjust my windows, but I just want to compare it to what the original building looks like. It looks like the next floor has a bit of space between the columns. So I'm going to adjust a few things while I'm in this view, and then I'll correct my windows. So let's touch the wall and give it a top offset. So I'll look in the properties bar, find top offset, and let's make that -1 feet, apply. And I'm going to do the same thing with my columns. I'm going to touch a column, hold Control, and select the edge of each column, and also give it a top offset of -1. What can be annoying is when I click top offset and start typing, for some reason, sometimes it moves your cursor. So just be aware that it might change it. So I'm going to say -1 for the columns and apply. Let's raise the grid bubbles just so that they're not in the elevation view. Let's touch a grid line, and there's that little bubble between the line and the 5 symbol. I'm going to touch that bubble and just drag it up. I'm holding in the mouse and scrolling out and dragging it up. Just by eye, it's trying to figure out how much taller that window needs to be. Right now I have 6 foot, 72-inch window. That needs to be more like a 9/6 window. So let's touch the window, and we're going to edit the type just like we did the wall. So in the properties, click the edit type button. And again, this window is called 36 by 72. So if 2 of you are working on a project and you just change the height to be 9/6, but your colleague wants a 72-inch window and puts it in, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, why is this 9/6? Everyone gets annoyed. Let's duplicate it to make it a new window. So duplicate. We'll call this one 36 by 9 foot 6 inches and hit OK. And then we're going to change the height under the dimension row also to be 9 foot 6 inches. And we will hit OK. MA, touch the window you want everything to look like, and then touch the other one. So we can also put windows in elevation views. So let's do the 2 transom windows next. So WN for window. Okay, so we need a window that's around 3'2" or 38 inches. So when I type WN, we could select a larger one. Do you want to do the 36 by 48? All right, let's touch 36 by 48. Place it above our door. So let's edit this one. I'll let you edit it. Make sure you just duplicate it. We're going to make it 38 inches tall. So back in level 1, we're going to start to use the tools of Autodesk Revit drafting to work for us. So I am going to copy. I'm going to select everything and Control C to copy. So Control C. Then I'm going to look at my project browser and double click on level 2. and I might just see a ghost of what's below. If I want to paste this in the exact same place, but on a new level, we're going to use a tool to do that. And we're going to go to the Modify tab in the ribbon. And then we're going to do the drop-down menu of Paste, which is on the left-hand side. And you see I have lots of options. So what these mean is align to the current view is what we're going to click, but align to the same place would put it exactly back on level 1. And after we perfect level 2, we're going to do the align to picked levels and do 3 at once. So these are nice options. Let's click align to current view. And you see, good. Let's check out what this looks like in 3D. So I have that hot button at the top of my screen. I'm going to click the house. So right away, I need to remove the doors. So let's touch the doors and delete them. And then why don't I match MA, the window, the large window to the 2 smaller. And then I can select, I can do this a couple ways. I can use a line in the elevation to move the windows down, or I can change the sill height. If I touch the window, it says the sill height of the taller ones are 7.4, and it needs to be 1 foot. So you could grab both of those windows and just change the sill height to be 1 foot. All right. My next few levels have shorter floor-to-floor heights. So let's do the last command one more time. I'm going to copy level 2 items. You can do this in 3D, or you can go to level 2 and select everything. Let's hit Control C. And then we will go to the Modify tab again. It's on the far right side. Mine is still in it, in that tab in the ribbon. Drop down the Paste again. It's the second one. Align to selected levels. Aha. Now I can pick level 3 and hit OK. And then why don't I go check in 3D to see whether or not that was added. All right, so let's go to south elevation. And again, we just have that 10-foot floor to floor, which means I need to change this window height one more time to reflect a shorter window height. Maybe I have then a 96-inch height window. So I'll let you change this window on your own. So you're going to make this window 96 inches. And again, just make sure that you duplicate. From 9.6 to 9.96. And then you can match the other windows. If I copy this wall to the next 2 levels, this wall is going to be a little higher than the level in the other ones. I think it will work. In the south elevation, you can use the grabbers this time. Touch the edge of the wall and pull that top grabber down so it aligns with level 4. And then I'm going to touch all of my columns and hold Control just to grab each of the columns. If I accidentally grab a grid line, I can hold Shift and unselect those. Once I have all my columns, you can make that top offset of 1, 0. Once we're done with that, let's select the whole assembly again. And I'm going to Control C to copy it. I'm going to find my paste. For some reason, my align to selected levels is not working. All right. We're going to go to level 4. I just double clicked it in my project browser. And you can paste so now you have a facade and all of your windows are rectilinear up until the 5th level, right? So what I want you to do is try to find in our online cloud library an arched window and replace that top series of windows with the family, the arched family you find. Let's see, it is a double hung window. Yeah, I found window double hung arch head. Okay, I guess I found one that was a 3x6. The other thing that you can do is just kind of take a look if that was really fast for you. You can touch the wall of level 2 and just make it use the grabbers so that the wall goes up to level 3 and down to level 1. In Revit, there's something called sweeps. You could create a sweep. The kind of pediment band above the column. Yeah, nothing real decorative is loaded in Revit. So we're not going to worry about it. We are going to pull this elevation onto a sheet. And then I want you to find a pattern in these series of windows. And I'll give you a couple examples just to get you started. So let's create a sheet together. We are going to go to the View tab. And then we will find Sheet. Near the right-hand side, we're going to click Sheet. And then say OK to the E1 size. And I want you to pull the south elevation onto this sheet. And it's a little small, right? Or I'll give you another minute. So let's double click in the view. Everyone has it on the sheet. Let's double click in the view. So now the title block is grayed out. And look at the scale in the bottom left. If I want this to be bigger, which direction am I going to go? Toward the 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or 1/16 of an inch way? Let's try 1/4. Oh, good, it's bigger. Are your levels like mine, kind of all over the place? Yeah. Let's just touch one level. I'll touch the roof level and zoom in to find that little bubble between the symbol and the name. I'm going to touch where the line intersects the symbol, zoom. I'm holding in the click, left click, zooming out and dragging it to the right. And then letting go. All right, I'll double click outside of the view so that I can zoom in and out around my title block. I'll explain what patterns you're going to find here. So what I want you to do is find some sort of rhythm or pattern in the facade. Some of the students have said, hey, maybe level 2, 3, and 4 look similar because they all have rectilinear windows. And those patterns I'm going to represent on my headline study, with angled lines, represent the same thing. Then there's something else happening with the arched window. So maybe I do a different sort of circular symbol or something that represents that different pattern idea there. Might want to focus on the fact that all 5 stories have just 4 ribbons, right? With a series of windows that change from the ground floor up to 5. So let's do a couple detail lines, and then I'll let you experiment. I'm going to double click back in my view and type in DL for detail line. And maybe just to start, I will draw a line at the top, 18 feet wide. I know my building was 18 feet all the way down, right? Maybe I just start with the rectangle and think, do I want to work with vertical ribbon bands? I might use the rectangle tool, right? Is there some sort of pattern that I can find using rectangles, right? Normally, if I have an idea, I just start to draw that idea first, and then it kind of sit back and evaluate, did that work or not, right? And then I kind of go from there.